This is Kevin Cassius for IFL TV. We're in Stuttgart here at the Vald Hotel. With me, with
There you go, sir.
thank you. What are you drinking?
Stuttgart beer, it's good, yeah?
Yeah.
It's really nice. Dinkelacker. It's a local beer, it's lovely. Really nice.
Right. Only one place to start, obviously. You weren't at the press conference on Monday, were you?
No.
So, I mean, I haven't seen it myself. Was there anything?
No, I
Have any
mean,
know what happened?
they're quite low key over here, the press conferences. They have been. The fight's sold out, so it's obviously gone well. Mutual respect for each other. Sturm's not like a trash talker, Darren's certainly not, so quite low key compared to last week's shenanigans. So yeah, ready to go.
Obviously, the fight's a couple of days away in tomorrow. Are you 100% certain you made the right decision in taking the fight over here?
Yeah, listen, that decision was made through the terms of the deal. As I've said before, I'll be totally straight. People ask me on Twitter, how comes Darren Barker's going to Germany? Because he's making a shitload of money to do so. And he's, you know, this is what you're in this game for. From my point of view, yes, I manufactured a rematch when it was a mandatory challenge. Yes, I manufactured neutral judges. But yes, he is in Felix Sturm's backyard. No problem doing that. I believe Darren's a better fighter. And therefore, I believe he'll win the fight. Sometimes you get bad decisions. You may get one tomorrow night, on Saturday night, I don't know. You may not. But I think if he performs like I think he can perform, I think he will perform, I think he'll win comfortably. I don't think he'll need the luck of the judges or the luck of the draw to win the fight. I just think he'll win the majority of the rounds. So, and you know, I've got faith in the IBF, I've got faith in the officials. You know, they've got two American officials, one Spaniard. They're all credible officials, credible judges. Sometimes people score fights differently to how you think they should be scored. We've seen that recently, and you know, it's part of the game in it, part of any sport in terms of officiating. Sometimes people get things wrong. So, but again, I think if he boxes out, I know he can box, and I believe he will box. I think he'll win this fight comfortably.
If Darren doesn't stop him, do you feel though he has to win it comfortably and comprehensively?
Well, he's the champion. It's quite an interesting one. You know, he's the champion, which should give him, and I know benefit of the doubt is not really a word. I mean, all rounds should be scored evenly, but there's always the subconsciousness of a judge that you've got a champion here, and the challenger effectively should take it off him. But at the same time, he's in his backyard. So, I don't know, I think it levels itself out. If it's close, it's close. I mean, you know, if you score one round or 2 rounds to Barker, absolutely it can be scored 1 or 2 rounds the other way, because that's what boxing's like. You know, rounds, sometimes you're going to get close rounds. Sturm likes to work a lot in the back half of the round, especially the last 30 seconds. It's about desire for me, this fight, you know. If Darren's got the same desire that he showed against Daniel Gill, which I'm certain he has, I think he wins well. You know, Sturm, this is like the last chance saloon for Sturm. You know, rumours that this is his last fight of his massive TV deal, so he has to win.
If Darren was to come through this fight, obviously we're looking at next year. Can you see a potential domestic big fight at a massive venue next year?
They're the fights people want to see. You know, the Martin Murray fight is a fight Darren would absolutely love. Macklin obviously fighting on Saturday night as well. There's loads of fights out there for Darren. You know, unification fights, Quillin, Golovkin. So, and I think that's got to be the motivation for Darren. I said to him this morning, we're only just beginning on this journey, you know, and that's what the mentality he's got to have. The journey's not over just because he won the world title. We're actually just beginning, and there's so much more to come. You know, so many great nights, so many great fights, and so much money for Darren Barker to be made that we can't afford to slip up now. We've got to capitalise, we've got to exploit, and you know, we've just got to keep rolling on. because it's not complete. You shouldn't be satisfied with what you got, and he shouldn't be satisfied with just winning the world title. And to be honest with you, coming out here and beating someone like STURM in his backyard, I think that's a great achievement. And for the resume, forgetting the money for a minute, for the resume and for the legacy, I think this is a big fight.
Fresh from, a few days ago, you just come back from Canada. A difficult night in the end for Tony Bellew, wasn't it? And
yeah,
what could he have done differently?
It's hindsight, isn't it? I mean, you sit here and you say, oh, maybe you should have taken the middle of the ring and walked him down, and but then would he have walked onto one? I mean, Stevenson's a huge puncher. He's very, very good. He's very, very awkward, much more awkward than Tony thought he'd be. And they had a plan, which I know it's easy to say now, but after that round, the intention was to go all out on Adonis Stevenson, but he walked onto one, and again, it's hindsight, isn't it? Should he have done this? Shouldn't he have done that? At the end of the day, he wasn't good enough, and it doesn't matter whether you say he got the tactics right or wrong. He wasn't good enough to beat Adonis Stevenson on that night. So it's irrelevant, and you can only be honest, and you can only be honest with yourself as Tony Bellew and say, I came up short. It's no disgrace. I said to him after, I said, you fought the very best in the division. I mean, people might say it's a toss-up between him and Kovalev, but and sometimes you've got to test yourself against the very best, because that's how you come back, that's how you improve, and that's how you find a way. And I said to him, look, Darren Barker fought Sergio Martinez, exactly the same thing, and look what he went on to do. And one of the reasons Darren Barker won the Daniel Gill fight is because he had that experience against Sergio Martinez. But I do think it's time for Tony to move up to cruiserweight. I just don't think he's doing himself justice at 12 stone 7. I don't think he's got the punch power he should have at 12 stone 7. He's a huge puncher. Everyone talks about it. You spar with Tony Bellew, he's a huge puncher. But you're not sparring with Tony Bellew at 12 stone 7. You're sparring with Tony Bellew at 13 stone 4, 5, 6, 7. And I think he should go away now, and the plan is to work on his strength and conditioning over the next 6 weeks. And then let's make a fight at cruiserweight, see how he gets on. It's a great division. Obviously domestically you got Cleverly potentially moving up. From an international point of view, the world champions, Sauerlands have got some great cruiserweights. There's some big world title fights to be had there. Hook, Hernandez, and I think it's time for him to try the cruiserweight division. I just think he's a little bit fragile at 12 stone 7. I don't think he's making the weight well. He's making it fairly comfortably, because he was 12 stone 7 or 8 on the Wednesday, but I just don't think he's carrying the power, and I just think he might be a little bit fragile at 12-7. And Tony Bellew is renowned for being a big puncher. In the amateurs he was a heavyweight, and he was cleaning people out for fun.
Is this an issue that, because it was like with Cleverly had his first defeat, and it was suddenly going to move him up to cruiserweight. I know this isn't Tony's first defeat, but
sometimes you look for answers, don't you? And it's easy to make a reaction or a decision. Just say, well, it must be because I'm not 12 stone 7. I lost to Adonis Stevenson. It's the wrong weight. I'm going to move up. But this is something that people have been saying for a while.
Yeah,
this is something that respectable people in the game have said. I think he'd be better off at cruiserweight. And you find a way or an excuse to accept that. Excuse me. Minus 15 in Quebec and minus 2 here. But you find a way to say that it's okay, and find a reason to accept why 12 stone 7 is okay. And the reason really was because we had a plan to get to a place, and every step we kept winning. So then you get to Chilemba, then you win, then you get Stevenson. You're not going to turn around after the Chilemba fight and say, actually, I'm going to go up to cruiserweight now. But even though those seeds were already in people's minds that perhaps that was the right thing to do, but he'd got so far down the line that that's where he had to stay. And now the journey for the world champion to be a world champion is finished at light heavyweight. We can rebuild and go again, but let's look at the division. Kovalev at WBO, Stevenson at WBC, Hopkins at IBF, and then you've got Shumenov fighting for the super title, and Bramer. And where are the opportunities next going to come? Kovalev, no. Stevenson, well, we've done that. Hopkins, no, that's not going to happen. So really you're looking at Shumenov, which is a fight he could fancy, but when's that going to come? But I just think maybe a fresh challenge for Tony. Let his body breathe. work on his strength and conditioning, see what he can do at cruiserweight. You know, he could turn around and be a huge puncher. He is a huge puncher, but he's not hurting people enough at 12 stone 7, and that's because I don't think he's carrying the power at light heavyweight.
So it hasn't been decided for definite he's going to do that?
Not really. It's too early to say. We discussed it on the flight home, and you know, I think at first he wasn't sure, but he said the other day he's been on a diet for 6 years. You know, like, it just feels like constantly, and I think once he's allowed to work with his body more, work on his strength and conditioning. At 12 stone 7, he can't add any mass, so he can't lift weights. He can't work on his strength and conditioning because he's going to be carrying, you know, he's going to be carrying muscle. He's not. It's going to. So I just think, you know, we'll match him reasonably to start with, but I think there's opportunities at cruiserweight, and it'd be interesting to see him develop in March in Liverpool.
Okay. Why do you think you've been getting so much stick about Froch and Groves? Seriously.
Honestly, like, when I first started getting stick, I thought it was a joke. Because,
why would you think it was a joke?
No, but because I don't understand how you could think that. I mean, do you really in your heart? I mean, look. I mean, you're not the sharpest tool in the box, right? But on a serious note, knowing me, and even forgetting about knowing me like you do you think that I could, I mean, even, not that even if I would or could, but do you honestly think that a referee would jump in and stop a fight because I told him to? Or, you know, I mean, and I had this conversation with George Groves the other day because it concerned me that some of his comments, and it really makes me wonder what planet people live on. Because sometimes you're going to get bad decisions, and sometimes judges score fights wrong. And in my opinion, and my opinion's not right, by the way, and nor is any other person's opinion because it's subjective. But one judge had it by 5 rounds to Carl Froch, to George Groves. I thought that was too wide, and the others had it by 1 round. I think that was much too thin. But sometimes, and actually nearly all the time, I disagree with pretty much every judge because I don't score it the same as every judge. But it just wears a little bit thin when you're on Twitter, like, oh, what round's this finish on, Andy? Oh, you're corrupt, you're this. And to be honest with you, we've built our business on integrity, and that's one thing I pride myself on in our business and in the sport. So for people to think there was anything untoward in the referee's decision, you know, it's just, it's bollocks, really. I mean, it is bollocks, and it's like, I worry about people's intellect who would even consider that. But then again, they don't know me, and they don't know the sport, and they're not, I think the fans that are saying that, they're not real boxing fans. I know who the real boxing fans are on, say, my Twitter page, because I interact with them every day. But the people that are coming on with the stick and the abuse, I've never seen them before in my life on Twitter, so I'm guessing they're not boxing fans. And people say, oh, it's a string of bad decisions on Matchroom shows. You know, I promote over 20 shows a year. I put on over 200 fights a year. You're talking about, and let's break them down. Froch Groves, okay, the referee jumped in what many think was too early, some actually don't, and actually the more it goes on, people think it wasn't too early. I've come out, I believe it was 5, maybe 10 seconds too early. Burns Beltran, shocking decision from the judge. The judge that gave it to Burns, I can't even comprehend that score. Rose Maciel, that was a close fight. You know, the media at ringside gave it, I think, 8 to Maciel and 7 to Rose or something like that. Quig Salinas, Quig won that fight in my opinion. He got a draw. And then people talk about BELLEW Chilemba, that was a draw. Alright, you might give it 1 round either way. These aren't
do you think it's because of the sheer amount of fights you're putting on, is that the emphasis falls directly and always on you, if you like? Do you think that's...
No, I think if there's a bad decision, it doesn't matter if I do 2 shows a year or
No, but
20 shows. But obviously, the more shows I'm going to do, the more
chance
bad
that-
decisions
yeah.
there's going to be. Because
Yeah.
every now and again, there's. I mean, look at the stoppage on of Chisora's fight the other night. The guy just turned around and went, "What? I'm absolutely fine." He turned his back. Therefore, he deserved to be stopped, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Groves shielded his back as well. Malik Scott against Derek Chisora. I mean, John Ryder against Billy Joe Saunders. I thought John Ryder won that fight. He didn't get a decision, but it was a very close fight. It can go either way. But when you actually break it down, so it's all very well people giving out a stick and giving out, but when you actually break their argument down, it's another bad one. Tell me the bad results. All right, the ref jumped in early because he felt that Groves was hurt. That's by the by. Burns Beltran, shocking decision, absolutely shocking. Then what? Rose Maciel. That was like totally like that. I felt Rose won it by a round. All right, some people think Maciel won it by a round. It doesn't. Quig Salinas, I gave it to Quig by a round. So did most people. It was a draw. Well, actually, if it was crooked, like people say, do you honestly think I'd want to draw in Bellew versus Chilemba? Do you honestly think I'd want to draw in Quig v Salinas? It's the worst results I could have had. Do you honestly think I'd want to draw in Burns Beltran? No, I mean, but there's conspiracy theories, isn't it? Oh, he wanted the ref to jump in early so he could make the rematch, which is going to make a load of money. Well, I don't even think the rematch is going to happen necessarily. So it's not. It doesn't. What?
Seriously?
I don't know. Look, it's
You must have spoke to the pair of them by now.
I've spoke to both of them, and it's too early. It's
What's the initial?
George wants a rematch, obviously.
Yeah.
Carl's got a bit of a bitter taste in his mouth, to be honest with you. And people who watch this aren't necessarily going to. But he put everything into that fight and everything into the camp, and he got booed out of the ring. Now people say, it's because of his comments after the fight. It's not. He was booed when he put his hand up to the crowd. He was booed when he started talking in the interview. But I just think he put so much in the fight and had to dig so deep against a brilliant George Groves that to get booed is just, and George now is playing a very clever game, which is get everybody on side and push for this rematch so that he has to take it. That doesn't always work, Sometimes that can make the other fighter rebel. And Carl Froch has got options. I was with HBO last week talking Ward, talking Golovkin, talking Chavez. So he doesn't have to take this fight. In the UK, 99% of the demand is for the Groves-Froch rematch. But it doesn't mean he has to take it.
No, he doesn't have to take it. Do you think he wants to fight Groves?
Yeah,
again?
I don't think he can. I don't think he's sitting there going, I can't take this fight because Groves is too good for me. I don't think he's of that mentality and that ilk. He was poor in the fight, and he knows he was poor. Groves was brilliant, but in his mind, he was 10 seconds away from knocking George Groves out. And he says that he knows in the fight after that 6th round, he felt so confident and strong that there was no way Groves was going to go 12. Some will disagree with that. So I think he thinks he can beat Groves again. It's definitely going to be a tough fight. But I don't think he's not. I've known him a long time. He's not scared to fight George Groves. He's just thinking, you know what? I've got a bit of a bad taste in my mouth here. I ain't going to make a decision there. And that's all that's on his mind. And I know how much he wants to fight Andre Ward, by the way, and he's stated that from the get-go.
What about the suggestion that Froch has had his day, and that was
maybe
apparent in the
maybe.
fight? Do you think? What do you think? No,
but
it matters what Carl thinks, really, doesn't it? On that,
I think he was poor.
Yeah.
I think he wasn't himself in a change room. He didn't warm up great. He didn't have the intensity that he had against Butane Kessler. Maybe George made him second guess himself in the build-up. Maybe he done a great job psychologically, but maybe Groves was too good. I don't know. All these things, but I don't think Carl Froch is. I think styles make fights, and Groves' style, as I said in many interviews with you, was all wrong. Speed, movement, couple that with Carl being poor. And it was a very difficult fight for him. Listen, for 6 rounds, he was miles behind. He took a pasting. you know, and then he found his way back into the fight.
Is George still without a promoter?
Yeah.
And
Listen, I spoke to George this week. I sat down. I'm not like one of those hungry rats that's just like going to try and feast on people's cricket. I want George Groves to be a part of Matchroom because I think he's got a great future. I don't want that to get in the way of a potential rematch. That's more important to me. I want to make the rematch, right? But my job is to put all the options and all the offers on a table for Carl Froch, and we sit down and we make a collective decision. Me, Carl Froch and Rob McCracken. And if signing George Groves will in any way affect the possibility of that rematch, then we'll wait. It's not... You know, George Groves has got the potential to be a box office fighter on Sky. I can deliver that, right? So that's not going to go away. And I want him to be part of the team. I think he's a very, very good fighter, brilliant fighter. But, and as I said to him the other day, my number one priority is to make the rematch. I want to make it.
But why does it signing him up? Why is that?
I don't know, because it's a very sensitive, you know.
Can't you promote both the same?
Yeah, I can, but like, I've got a lot of respect for Carl. I don't want it to be like, oh, you've signed George Groves, so what's this? So like, you know.
Yeah, but a lot of people thought that George was still with you up until that ringside episode. A lot of people didn't know what
maybe,
the
but
deal was.
you're talking internal politics. It's not, you know, and I'm not. You know, I want to make the rematch. You know, I do, and I don't. I'm sure. I believe George Groves will end up being a Matchroom fighter in time. But I've just had a chat with him this week. That's, you know, it's the first chat we've had, and my intentions are, I want him to be a Matchroom fighter. But my intentions are also to make a rematch, and you know, I've got a long-term loyalty to Carl Froch. You know, and again, I want to get everything clear, and I want to make sure all these options are put in front of the table. The biggest money fight out there for both fighters is the rematch. Yeah. No question. You know, and therefore I believe it will be made. But it's not going to be made this week. It's not going to be made next week. It might not even be made the week after. It might not even be made this year. But, you know, in answer to your question, will we promote George? Yes, I hope we will. You know, and I think we'll get there with that as well. And I think we'll get there with a rematch. It's just people have to understand the business. It takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of patience. It takes a little patience. Yeah.
Just to finish off, you have made 2 signings in the last week. Darren Hamilton, the British champion, and Tommy Cole, which was inevitable with the whole connection with Luke Campbell. So
it was. I mean, I guess sometimes you can get a little bit complacent. Like if you look at like Derry Matthews, for example. Derry Matthews was never a Matchroom fighter, but he was always boxing in Hull. I haven't seen your interview with him, but I think in the end, in Hull, he was always boxing on Sky. But I think in the end, he felt that he wasn't really part of the team.
And was being used as an opponent.
Yeah. Which I didn't really see him as like that. And I didn't want Tommy Coyle to feel the same because you know, Derry Matthews does okay with tickets, but Tommy Coyle, blimey, I think he's probably the biggest ticket seller in the country in terms of personal tickets. And he's a very good fighter, so I wanted to secure his signature and make sure that, you know, because Derry's in some great fights, as is Tommy. You know, we've got now Tommy Coyle, Gavin Rees, you know, even we're talking to John Murray about, you know, his fights now as well. Anthony Croller, Kevin Mitchell. You know, one more lightweight and we've got the Super 6.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that it was important to get him, and then Darren Hamilton is sort of one against the head really. No one really expected that, but what I like about Darren Hamilton is, and I've got a lot of time for Spencer Fearon as well, and I think they deserve their break, is Darren will box anyone, anywhere in the country. So first up for him is February 22nd in Hull against Curtis Woodhouse. But he'll go anywhere. He'll fight Chris Jenkins in Wales for the British title. You know, he'll fight up in Scotland, and I think he's a very good fighter as well. And I think he's actually a great personality. I mean, have you heard the geezer rap?
Yeah, listen, we knew about Darren Hamilton rapping 2 years ago. Yeah, so...
Okay. No, but I think it's going to be good fun, and, you know, I mean, we've got a lot of fighters now who are on the verge of world title shots. and we want to bring the next level through, and we want to bring the youngsters through. So,
just talk me through. Obviously, we know about next week at the Excel, but into the new year now. So just your first up and coming show, which is the first one on the 1st of
February the 1st, which will be Anthony Joshua, Lee Selby against Munro for the European British titles, Gavin Rees, Chris Jenkins.
Against?
I don't know with Rees yet, we're talking to about 3 or 4 opponents. Chris Jenkins, possibly for a British title eliminator, who won prize fighter.
Yeah.
Kerry Hope, Bias Webb, Tom Stalker's back in action. It's a really good build down
Where
there.
will that be? At the Mark Point?
Yeah, we've had a great response. You know, people have been asking us for a while to come back to Cardiff and we'll come back to Wales, so we've had a really good response. Went on sale with that today. February the 22nd, Hull, Tommy Coyle, Luke Campbell, hopefully his first title. Another title fight will be announcing next week on there, and British title fight, Darren Hamilton against Curtis Woodhouse as well. February the 8th could potentially be Ricky Burns against Terence Crawford. Got purse bids for that on Monday, but we're in talks with Bob Aram now to see if we can do a deal before purse bids. It's 50-50.
So it's looking like Crawford now,
yeah,
not
Beltran.
Beltran.
Yeah. I tried so hard with Beltran, I mean, and you know.
What was it he said the other day?
He said that he wanted to break my jaw because I don't think, sometimes fighters are blind to what's going on and sometimes they don't know the truth. So I phoned up his manager and said, have you seen this article? I mean, so
100% from him as well.
Yeah, but then they issued an apology. I don't know if you saw it. Like Steve Fedder said, look, they couldn't have tried harder for the rematch. And look, at the end of the day, commercially, the rematch with Beltran is a much bigger fight than Crawford. So of course I want to make it, and it's an easier fight, by the way. So I tried, and Crawford weren't interested to wait or step aside. Don't blame him, but it's just the way it works.
So that's potentially on the 8th at the Hydro.
Yeah, and then in March, Liverpool, Bellew, Rocky Fielding, Stephen Smith,
Echo?
Callum Smith, most likely, Tom Stalker, and a couple of other names to add.
Got any London stuff?
No plans for London.
Really?
Oh, I mean, I've only looked really till the end of March. April the 19th, we're going at the MEN, and we're going with Quigg, defending his world title. We're going with Crolla, possibly Brian Rose.
Crolla for the British?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Crolla's at that interesting point now where he's on the verge of a world title, but so he needs to be in. You know, I mean, Crolla's close. You know, I'd put Crolla in, and I think they'd fight an Abra or a Vasquez. Really difficult fights for him. But I think Joe's ready and Anthony's ready for that big test now, you know. So, and then I suppose we'll put a London show in there as well. And then, you know, if Froch Groves happens, perhaps that'll be in London. You know, we've had nearly every stadium on across the country talking about it, you know, and it's brilliant. You know, the likes of Wembley, first ever fight there at the new stadium, and to be involved with something like that would be fantastic. So. How many do you think it would do at Wembley, Coop?
I think they'd sell it out at Wembley, maybe
yeah, but
50,
I think
60?
that's but that's more, isn't it? Wembley would be, I think it'd be more like 90 because of the floor seats.
Yeah, what you could, yeah. But
I'd do 20 quid top tier, you know.
Yeah. Would you feel 90 though?
I'd be very confident of doing 50,000.
Yeah, I was going to say between 50 and 60 I think you could do.
Well, I mean, so that'd be wonderful to be involved with, you know.
Alright, I can't feel my arms, but thanks for bringing me out here. Much appreciated.
Yeah, no, I'm still trying to get my head around that, really.
What? Yeah,
to be honest, it would have been great to have you in Quebec last week because the weigh-in was blinding. And, you know, but it's lumpy, it was lumpy out there, Coop.
What do you mean lumpy?
What? Like the flights, the hotel.
Yeah, that's alright, I don't care.
Well, this is quite lumpy as well. Why are you out here on Thursday?
Why?
Yeah.
Well,
tomorrow morning.
Speak to Anthony and Frank.
Were you originally coming Friday morning?
Yeah.
But they changed your flight?
Yeah, because the flight got us in tomorrow an hour before the weigh-in, or an hour and a bit before the weigh-in.
So I've had to pay an extra hotel night?
Yeah. Another meal. Expenses, obviously, you know, I've just been, you know...
Floating around, though.
Floating around. But no, seriously, thanks.
That's alright.
Because they ain't got to do it, so...
There's some good guys out there. I mean, Kel's here, Carl's here.
Is Carl going back tomorrow though?
Yeah, but then he's coming back. He's got he's working tomorrow night at some personal appearance, and then he's coming back out Saturday. And then
Rocky's here, isn't
Rocky's
he?
here, Kazaki's here.
Kazaki's here. He was just sorry, your old man, being inducted into the Hall of Fame. So
I was quite surprised, really.
What, you bitter?
Not bitter.
Well, do you think it's because of your success in the last couple of years?
Might have woken people up to it. I don't know. No, I mean, you know what he was saying the other day? He said, he done an interview with Tris Dixon. They said, why did you leave boxing? He said, people go on and say, I never left boxing. He said, at the height, I was doing 46 shows a year. And at my low, I was doing 12 shows a year. And that's never changed. He just stopped looking after fighters. We were still doing Matchroom shows, but using other fighters. So, I'm chuffed for it. He's actually genuinely chuffed. I mean, he was over the moon, yeah. So, I mean, I know that it doesn't really change your life going in there, but hopefully I can get there one day. Because it's not, it's nice to be a part of, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's nice to feel that, because you give a lot in this job, you give a lot in any job, really, don't you? And it's nice to, and that's the thing about the stick, which gives you the ump more than anything, because you think, fucking hell, I knock my cods off all over the world, non-stop. And don't get me wrong, I love my job, but you do it for yourself, obviously, but also you do it for the sport and for the fans, and you want the fans to appreciate and enjoy what you're doing. So when you put on a show like Froch Groves, which is just the biggest, such a success and such a wonderful fight, and then that happens, and then you get blamed for it, you think, why do I bother? You know what I mean? So going into something like the Hall of Fame makes you think, oh, you actually appreciate it as a promoter.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, well done to Joe as well. I mean, it's good for British boxing.
He's like, my old man's going, they've inducted me in the Hall of Fame. Oh, and Joe, Felix and Oscar as well. I'm in with them.
Alright, well listen, thanks for talking to us. Weighing tomorrow. But this might end up going out tomorrow, I think. It's a long one. Is it the same beer?
Yeah. Dinken Ackel. It's good, yeah?
Do you know any German?
No. It's one of the few languages that, I mean, I know not a lot of French, but quite a bit, and Spanish as well, but German.
No.
Guten Tag. Dankeschön. Ein Bier.
Mesut Ozil.
Overrated.
You crap. You crap. Alright, well listen, make sure we get a bit with Froch, because...
Yeah. I think...
Yeah.
I think you'll get, I mean, he's quite opinionated on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think if you get into him, I think
no,
you'll get
I think if I've got a good 10-15 minutes with him, I can draw it out of him, hopefully. Alright, well listen, we'll see. It's early now, it's only about 7 o'clock, isn't it? So, what's the deal with ringside?
I think they had some technical problems. They filmed it pretty much live from Germany, or just slightly delayed. I don't know whether they had some problems getting the programming.
So is it on at 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
You'd think someone had died on Twitter. I mean, this is fucking shit. What a disgrace. What? It's like they've come out here, they've got Froch, Calzaghe, Kell Brook, they've set it up in the Christmas market. Do you know how much work has gone into this? And it's like people just fucking disgrace. I'll cancel my Sky, man. I mean, it's like...
Alright, thanks for talking to us.
I've blocked a lot of people on Twitter. Have you? Yeah. I reckon I'm up to about 30 now.
Really? Don't worry about it.
A lot of Amir Khan fans.
Yeah? Don't worry about it.
Team Khan, isn't it?
Isn't it?
That's ironic. You're telling me not to worry about abuse on Twitter when you used to be...
I used to be, but I just don't care. I really don't care. I've got bigger fish to fry than worry about.
What's that, Facebook or Instagram? What was that picture you sent me the other night?
Yeah.
Did you put that on your Instagram?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, what's wrong with that?
What was I doing?
I don't know. Your eyes. I don't know. But no, I just can't be bothered with them. I just literally...
Did you block them?
Yeah, no, if I think that
how many you blocked now?
I probably blocked about 10.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's in my whole Twitter thing. If I think that they're incorrect about something, I'll put them right about it. Yeah. If I think they're just being an absolute cunt, then I'll just...
block them.
Can't be bothered to get into a thing. But I haven't got 125,000 followers, so...
Maybe that's the problem. Darren's come off it.
Yeah, it's a good thing for a fight week to come off.
He said how nice it is to be on. Because he said the same sort of thing. When he's in the gym 3 times a day grafting his nuts off, and someone's telling him he's shit, and he, you know, it's like, you don't need to be hearing it, do you?
Nah.
You just think, why?
But Bellew done it as well, did
Do
he?
you know
Sort of
what?
come off as well
Like,
for a while.
Same with Bellew. Bellew's outspoken, he's different to Darren. So some people might think, oh, you deserve it because you talk yourself up. But when people are tagging him into tweets going, you're shit, you're going to get knocked out, like before the fight, I just don't, you know. I guess maybe because I'm so close to him and I can see how much they want it. So to think someone would want to say that to them before the fight, I just can't, you know. But anyway, listen.
All right. This is Kugan Cassius with Eddie Hearn for IFL.